Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to a new program of That's English. Gary?
Oh, sorry, I was reading an article. Do you remember E.T.?
Yeah.
Well, here it says that E.T.'s wife has been granted a divorce.
I don't believe that.
Well, neither do I. They looked so happy when they got married.
Gary, you shouldn't read the tabloids. You should read some serious newspaper like me. Look, you can read the financial news, the editorials, the political comments.
Just like you, right?
Yeah, just like me.
Then why are you reading the advertisements, Sarah?
Oh, well, I'm just looking for a flat to rent.
Yeah, that's right. Hello, this is a print, or a printed newspaper, un periódico impreso. But in today's documentary, we are not going to talk about printed newspapers. We are going to the United States to see what tomorrow's press will look like through one of today's most modern papers, USA Today.
Before watching the documentary, make a note of some new words you will hear in it. For example, mass media, which means medios de comunicación.
To update means actualizar, to update. And the expression to do away with means suprimir o hacer desaparecer algo.
And now the questions you will have to answer after watching the documentary. The first question, what two names do you give a paper which you can read on your computer screen? Screen significa pantalla de ordenador.
Second question. According to Mr. Sanders, what are some of the advantages of an online paper?
And finally, does Mr. Sanders think online papers will do away with conventional papers?
Did you make a note? Then listen carefully to our Out and About. We live in a world where information needs to be more immediate every day. People want to receive news as soon as it happens. And thanks to technological progress, this is becoming easier and easier.
The mass media, and especially the written press, are undergoing important changes to adapt to the new demands. To be well informed, we don't need to read the news on the pages of a newspaper, but we can read it on computer screens when news is sent as soon as it's been written. These are the so-called electronic newspapers or online papers.
To find out about online papers, we visited the offices of USA Today Information Network. USA Today was the first American newspaper to use satellite transmission to publish simultaneously nationwide. Larry Sanders, the person in charge of communications in USA Today, explains to us in general terms what an online paper is.
An online paper is more than just a paper. It's the newspaper updated constantly. It's the newspaper that can be published online, literally anytime news happens.
USA Today Online is available on the World Wide Web, a part of Internet that, thanks to its user-friendly environment, is becoming increasingly popular.
The main characteristic of an online paper is that readers can access the information they want whenever they want it, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with information being updated by the minute. With a swift movement of their mouse, users can obtain the latest news or the latest sports results, information about the weather anywhere in the world, or the latest economic news from Wall Street.
Larry Sanders gives us a summary of the main advantages of an online paper as compared to a traditional paper.
An electronic paper is vibrant, it's alive. When something happens, it will reflect it. A regular paper is put to bed at midnight or 1 o'clock, sometime at night, and by the time most people read it, the news is at least 8 hours old. An electronic paper can be published every 5 minutes if necessary.
And could you tell us about the disadvantages of electronic newspapers, if there are any?
Perhaps the biggest disadvantage is that it's all new. We don't know too much about who our readers are. We don't know too much about how to make money online besides advertising. And I think that as time goes by, those questions will be answered, but those questions have already been answered for the print paper.
The number of users of electronic information networks is increasing. In a few years, surfing the internet will be as common as making a phone call is nowadays.
Eventually, a subscription to an online paper will be cheaper than printed newspapers. That's why we asked Larry Sanders if he thinks the online format will do away with conventional newspapers.
At one point, people said that televisions would do away with movie theaters and that the radio would do away with newspapers. I think online newspapers will always complement the paper. I don't think it will ever do away with it.
There's no doubt that newspapers and magazines will have to live with the new reality of online newspapers, at least in the near future.
The question is, will printed newspapers become museum pieces? No one knows the answer yet.
It's interesting to think how much the mass media could change in the near future.
Yeah. But I think that electronic press has a very serious disadvantage.
What disadvantage?
Well, you can't wrap your lunch in a computer.
Gary, please leave that sandwich. We have to give the answer to the questions.
All right, all right.
The first question was, what two names do you give a paper which you can read on your computer screen? Let's see the answer.
These are the so-called electronic newspapers or online papers.
So the answer is an electronic paper and an online paper.
The second question was, according to Mr. Sanders, what are some of the advantages of an online paper?
An electronic paper is vibrant, it's alive. An electronic paper can be published every 5 minutes if necessary.
For Mr. Sanders, the main advantages are it's vibrant, it's alive, and it can be published every 5 minutes.
And finally, does Mr. Sanders think online papers will do away with conventional papers?
I think online newspapers will always complement the paper.
So for Mr. Sanders, the answer is no. They will always complement the paper.
I hope you didn't have any problems with the answers.
Now let's watch our sketch. Gary and I will both become journalists.
Sarah, I don't know if the press will change a lot in the future, but I'm sure that journalists will never change. You'll see why. Miss Ashton,
Yeah?
I'd like you to write a front-page story about the press.
You mean the right-wing press or the left-wing press?
The tabloid press.
Ah, you mean the country news?
You read my mind. You're on your way to becoming a great journalist, Miss Ashton.
Journalism is an easy job. You just have to think what your boss thinks.
You deserve a pay rise. We'll talk about it later.
So what's the scoop?
Well, the country news has been given a subsidy by the government in exchange for support during the election campaign.
That means they could increase the circulation figures and outsell us.
That's the problem, if the news is true.
Well, hasn't it been confirmed?
No, it's just a rumor.
Then it can't be published.
Why not? Journalists shouldn't worry too much about what they write. It will be true, sooner or later.
You're a genius, boss. I'm going to write that article straight away.
Go ahead.
It's the front page of the country news. There's something about us.
Hand it over. This is incredible. What a cheek. It's disgusting. They say that our paper, The World Today, has been given money by several banks to attack the government and support the opposition party.
Is that true?
Not quite. The funds haven't been confirmed yet.
How dare they publish it then?
Well, you know, certain papers will publish anything just to get more readers.
If you agree, I would like to write an article and say a journalist's duty is to be useful to society.
Of course you can write it, Miss Ashton. But let me give you some personal advice. Don't trust those who want to be useful to society. You'll find out why.
You're a genius, boss.
Hurry up and write that editorial, Miss Ashton. We'll talk about your pay rise tomorrow.
Well, I wouldn't like to have that editor as an enemy.
Oh, come on, Sarah. If papers only told the truth, no one would buy them. They'd be so boring.
It's time to revise what we've learned in Unit 2.
Yes, it's time for summing up.
A lo largo de esta unidad, hemos aprendido a utilizar la voz pasiva con verbos con dos complementos.
The paper has been given a subsidy. The correspondent was given an award. The prize will be given to a computer expert.
Y también a repetir lo mismo de manera diferente como estrategia de comunicación.
I would like El País. I would like a Spanish newspaper. And this is all for today. Now it's your turn to consolidate what you've learned in this unit with the help of your book and your cassette. Sarah? Sarah, please, say goodbye to our friends.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading a very interesting article. Here it says, Gary Piquer, the famous television presenter of That's English, the distance learning course, has been given an Oscar.
What, really? An Oscar? I can't believe it. Let me see. The Oscar Smith Award for the worst television presenter? Sarah, what have you done?
Me? Well, I couldn't do such a thing.
I'm sure this journalist is a good friend of yours.
See you in the next program.
Yes, see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, friends.